Thank you very much for joining us on the program again. More than 70 million bank customers are at risk of losing access to their accounts following a directive by the Central Bank of Nigeria to restrict accounts without bank verification numbers as well as national identification numbers. You'd recall that the CBN had on the 1st of December 2023 directed that a post-no debit restriction be placed on all bank accounts without the BVN or the NIN, as well as the NIN actually, from Friday, March the 1st, 2024. Now, the post-no debit is a term used to describe a restriction imposed by banks on specific accounts, preventing customers from making withdrawals, transfers, or any other debits from such accounts. This measure effectively freezes the funds in the account, renders them inaccessible for the duration of the restriction. However, bank customers home and abroad who are yet to link their BVN and their NIN to their accounts are seeking more time from authorities to enable them comply. Joining us now from our Abuja studio to discuss this development is public policy analyst Ibrahim Garba. Thank you for joining us again on TVC Breakfast. So what do you make of it? This is March the 4th, so in a sense, so to speak, the directive or the deadline has since expired, and these accounts, according to the CBN directive of December, will no more be accessible to their owners. But then there is a plea for more time. What do you think?
Well, thank you very much for having me once again this morning. For the first time, I think we should be looking at strengthening institutions to function optimally. For CBN to issue these directives and the NCC, to issue the deadline for people, or rather Nigerians, to link their SIM and NIN to their accounts, I think it's timely. Because most times when you say Nigerians should come out to update their report or data, people feel sometimes it's too early, and they want to shy away from the fact that the system must work. We must continue to improve. And I want to commend our institutions, especially the NCC. For too long, we have issues of money laundering, we have issues of insecurity across the length and breadth of this nation. So how do you begin to think of supporting government policies? How do you track these criminal elements and all that? So the only way is let us verify these accounts, authenticate owners of this account, and that is why the CBN strongly came hard on illegal customers. And don't forget that some of the commercial banks even aided all these anomalies we are seeing today. There are monies deposited without proper accounting process. So we see money moving here, and there. And that is why the cases we have on insecurity on a daily basis continue to rise. So I think it is timely for the federal government to come hard on this. Well, 70 million Nigerians or 70 million accounts to be rendered invalid is not something, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's you going back to the bank, verify, identify yourself. I am the owner of this account, and you are free to spend your money. Let me tell you, there is so much money within the commercial bank arena that are, domesticated, and they are not accounted for. Some of these funds, they are just lying idle. And the banks, on the other hand, focus more on business rather than corporate social responsibility. And I think it's time for the bank to also come into support by way of encouraging customers, maybe through accounting, rather, supporting them by improving, not just improving. What I'm trying to say here is the banks, on their part, should encourage the customers to begin to think of, okay, if you come in to verify, or if you authenticate your account, you stand the chance of maybe being credited with so amount, because Nigerians are used to incentives, they are used to benefits, getting benefits or whatever they are doing. So I think it's timely for us to continue to support these government policies. It's not every time we come out on radio, TV, or online to begin to criticize government policies. It's a critical moment for us, and there are so many funds flying here and there, but the only way we can track it, and the only way we can track responsible Nigerians, is by adopting this policy, which will work for all of us.
Interesting stuff. The banks were also directed not to open new accounts without NIN or BVN. And I'm wondering how it was possible, or it's been possible for people to be able to operate bank accounts without having BVN or NIN, because it's not a new policy. It's something, the issue of BVN is something that has been on for several years. So how come, what does this say about, the professionalism of those who run our banking our banking system, institutions, in not ensuring that people have, these requisite details in order to ensure that they know their customers. It's not a new policy, is it?
Is the best method. Interacting with your customer is in the right direction, because it gives you that leverage to do business with people, depositing money in your bank. It's nothing new. And that is why it is good for the banks to understand this is not about compromise. Yes, there are so many areas that we need to improve as a nation, but the banks being the lender and at the same time issuer of this legal tender need to play their own role. Look, what I'm saying here is that, you see, we are in a critical situation at the moment. There are complaints of funds missing. There are complaints of customers being shortchanged. And there are complaints of insecurity. Monies being given to these criminal elements, they use the banks. People come to the bank to make withdrawals, to deposit and rather send these monies to the criminal element. The level to which we are going in this country, if we don't begin to improve by properly authenticating the customers and people patronizing the banks, it's going to be very difficult for us as a nation. And I'll give you an example. The case like during the Buhari administration, when we introduced this change of currency or whatever by the former CBN governor, Emefiele, a lot of people criticize it. But, most of the banks compromise on this by not providing, cash enough to leverage on this policy. It would have worked well for this country. And if you check well at that time, the rate of banditry, kidnapping reduced to the barest minimum. But when these restrictions was lifted, what happened? They came back all over again. I think it's time for us, the bank, the institutions, the federal government, to come up with a policy that will mitigate on all these things. And this is the step in the right direction. Remember, it's not about owning an account. We should support NIMC to verify the status of every Nigerian in this country today. We should know where you are residing, your status and all that. That will help, one, government to plan in terms of palliatives and all that. On the other hand, it qualifies you as a true Nigerian to do business with anybody, anywhere across the nation. And in the same vein, you are a citizen of this country by birth and naturalization. So the benefits to Nigerians are numerous. So if we don't start this process of verification now, it's going to be difficult. And I would like to commend the effort of the NIMC boss, because in December 31st January this year, she rolled out, a package, and she made sure that everything necessary to be done to verify and authenticate every Nigerian is put into place. And she has been doing well, and we are seeing the effort. Unlike in the past, whereby most of the free agents, the third-party agents that were given the license to do this verification on behalf of NIMC, there were cases of fraud, there were cases of non-payment and all that. So, and when she came out to, make that pronouncement that yes, it is no longer business as usual, every Nigerian must be verified, you must be authenticated, and you must be given that right as a Nigerian to enjoy benefits of being a Nigerian. So I think it's the right time for us to think positively about this nation and look beyond this and put things right. it's not about looking here, there, and everywhere. It's about focusing on the main ideas, the main objectives of these the NIMC and same NIN linkages to the BVN accounts. And as I tell you today, there are so many people who don't have BVN, and they have monies domiciled in their accounts. But the commercial banks will never give you access to this information. So, but if we insist on that, it will create sanity within the banking environment and improve transactions across board. I think it's something that I want the federal government to focus. I don't think it's necessary for us to even lift sanctions. Rather, the federal government and our institutions should put pressure on the commercial banks to make sure that all these accounts are linked to the BVN and linked to the SIM, and at the same time the national identity number. It must be considered a must for every Nigerian, especially those in the business environment.
Right, but really, what will be the impact of these 70 million accounts, so to speak, now that will be affected by the time the hammer takes effect? Because so far, CBN has kept silent on the issue as to whether it will take effect. Basically, seeing as the deadline had since lapsed since Friday last week.
Mm-hmm. It's normal. You remember, they give them a lot of timeline. It's about, since last year, 2023, the NIMC, the banks, and at the same time the NCC have been appealing to Nigerians to link their SIM and their NIN to their accounts. The call has been on for a long time. And why is it that Nigerians did not take that serious? Because almost every policy of the government will tend to politicize this as maybe we are witch hunting Nigerians and all that. I don't think it's right for us to begin to condemn some of these policies of the federal government. It's in the interest of every Nigerian. So if at that stage you were warned, you were issued directives, most Nigerians were, saw the messages coming from the service providers, encouraging them to go for verification and authentication. NIMC equally roll out a package for almost everywhere across the nation for people to go and get registered, get authenticated and all that. But despite all these efforts of the federal government, Nigerians, you know us very well, sometimes, when we are issued directives, we wait for the last minute to begin to make a rush. And, it's at the end of the day, it affects the database of the organization. So, I mean, at this point, yes, a lot of people, we lose money within the banking arena. But it's normal that you go back to your bank and go through the normal process and get your money recovered. But at the same time, I will use this opportunity to call on Nigerians, wherever you are, because I have friends who complain of their SIM being blocked by the service providers and all that. But it is in line with the federal government policy. You don't blame the service providers because whatever policy of the government is in the right direction because they are partners to federal institutions. So if you are requested to update your data, through your SIM, it's in the best interest of Nigerians because we have so many criminal elements around us in the country today. How do you know the difference? It is when you support these policies that things become better for everyone. And remember, the former Minister of Communication, Professor Isa Ali Pantemi, mentioned it in several fora that, he came under threat by some groups he never knew about, threatening him not to expose them using, the satellite communications and all that. And it's something that the present government should try to explore because if we really need to tame these criminal elements, ravaging us, ravaging the nation on a daily basis, there's a need for us to go through this process so that it will be easier for security agents to track them wherever they are. The army, the police, they need information. And without this information, they won't be able to, succeed in their operations. I think it's time for us to begin to look inwards and support these policies of government.
Right. While we understand that there are some laggards among Nigerians who always wait, until the deadline before they rush to, doing doing the needful. But the question is, how much has also the CBN and the banks helped the people, especially those at the grassroots, to get this information? How much of communication had been done? How much of advertisement had been done? And sometimes some people had been on these for several years. Whenever some are not able to get their name, because it was suspended at the time because of the procedures of, getting your NIN and all of that. And the banks too, when you get there, they will also complain of no network. And that's a common knowledge. So you're wondering how we are, innovating technologically to ensuring that we are doing things right. So if the banks are not doing their own, playing their own parts in ensuring that they have adequate network, then do we entirely blame the people?
No, normally when things like that happen, you see some act of sabotage. I think I disagree with you saying that the banks, maybe the CBN and the NCC have not done so much in, advocacy and, dishing out information to every Nigerian. I think I've seen several messages like that. Each time I want to link, or maybe in the process of trying to, recharge your phone, you see some information coming.
Yeah, but
informing
sorry
you,
to butt in.
instructing you.
Some of these information,
yes,
some of these messages, some people who were at the banking hall had no business because some of them had done it, and they complained that why were they sent message? And they said that they only sent it randomly. So that led to a lot of people, influx of people into the banking hall, which shouldn't be.
No, you should understand the system. I think it's right for you to visit some of the banks, because I was with one of the banks recently to, update some of my accounts. It's very, very easy. These banks are working with guidelines. And when you step into any bank, the question they always ask is, where is your NIN? How do we link it to your, do you have a BVN? Do you have this? Do you have, there are questions being asked across the counter. And, it's very easy for you to update this. It's not something that, it's not rocket science. It's something you walk in and you walk out, you get attended to. I think the banks, for me, in this, they are doing very, very well. That is one. Then, like you said earlier on, a lot of people that, are operating account with some of these, with some of our banks, they are aware of these policies. So it's all about you taking it as a, taking it as a bold step to say, okay, today let me go to the bank, fix my account so that I can be upgraded. It's simple. The general fear is that when you come into the bank, you see long queues as if it's not going to end. No, take your time, go through the process, and update your record. So the issue of saying there's not enough information, maybe network failure and all that, I don't think we're being fair to some of the banks or service providers. A lot has been done in terms of information dissemination. There's no Nigerian, operating, using a mobile phone that has not been reached, via these platforms. A lot of messages have been disseminated in that direction. I think it's fair for us to say, okay, the banks should be supported as well at this point, because most Nigerians, complain whenever policies, deadlines are reached on any policy that will be favorable to the government and the people. But if you are going to, feast on that, we are not going to make any headway. And that is why even the media has a critical role to play, by making sure that Nigerians comply. These are regulatory institutions. They want to do something to make the life of every Nigerian better. And I'll give an example. Not quite too long ago, the federal government decided to, embark on conditional transfer to about 15 million Nigerians. People are now asking how this is possible, or how it is going to be possible. So you need data. You need data to be able to, dispatch or rather deliver this money to several accounts. So without proper data, I don't think it's possible for us to be able to achieve this. So if government says, okay, go through the process of verification so that you can get authenticated, I think the government is trying to help you so that you can benefit from some of the policies they are rolling out on a daily basis. We should be patient, and at the same time, we should do our part as Nigerians. You must continue to sit back at home and say, okay, government should come and do this for you. You must take the right step, move out of your comfort zone, and get yourself authenticated so that you can live peacefully as a Nigerian and enjoy some of these benefits from federal government.
All right, Mr. Ibrahim Garba, public policy analyst. We'll see how it all goes. We thank you very much for speaking to us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me once again.
And still ahead on the program,